Hey, welcome back to JG3 Reviews. Thank you for joining us as we explore the world of fountain pens, paper, and ink. And today we are going around the world to South Korea, the home of this pen, the Eureka Symmetry. This is a new pen, a new brand to me. They reached out, said, hey, do you want to review our pen? And I said, absolutely. And so here it is. Now, first things first, don't let that minimalist design fool you. There is a lot going on, from the material to the nib to the construction. This pen has a lot going for it, including a great price for this level of craftsmanship. So you're going to want to stick around for the rest of this review. So let's spin that camera and get started. All right, when your pen comes, it is in this nice pouch, which seems really well done. I like that. And the pen first strikes you in its minimalist design, and it is true to minimalist design in that there are no adornments, there is no name or anything stamped in. It is a pen, and I like it. So it tapers down here, it tapers slightly to the finial, which is simply that blank dome, same for the other end, and there's nothing else here. But don't let that fool you. There is actually a lot going on here, and I think I have to zoom in to really help you appreciate that. Now, it's a bit difficult to get my camera to even focus on the material because there's just not a lot of detail, but you can tell by the unfortunate detail of my fingers that the camera is indeed focused. That's how finely machined it is. You can see where the pen is turned, and that's really well done, and the feeling of that is nice and smooth. So there are just all kinds of ways that you can see the quality of this pen. You notice that this edge is nicely finished and not sharp in a bad way. They chose to smooth that off, and it's nicely rounded. And those machine marks are really fine and very smooth. You come down to the threads. We're going to stay zoomed in on this because look how well those triple threads are done. And I'll show you something here in a minute that really kind of exaggerates how well done they are. The grip is nice and long. Again, very nicely done, nicely machined. And then you find that Bock nib. That Bock nib is also tuned in-house. They don't just buy them and stick them in. They make sure that those are tuned the way that they like them. And I think they've done a good job on the medium nib that I have. But it's also nice because that means you have a world of nib options open to you. We have Bock nibs and other nibs that will fit into that number 6 nib unit. And then, of course, a plastic feed. And again, you can see how well machined it is around that nib unit. Now, one thing I didn't do is show you how many turns it takes to get the cap off. Did you see what I just did there? Watch that. Look at that. Look at that. So well done, these threads, that you can spin it and take it off, spin it, and it's tight down. Just really well done. If you do it the old-fashioned way, it takes less than 2 turns to get that cap on. Anyway, just really, really good. But let's talk material. The material here is called PEEK, P-E-E-K, and that's an acronym for polyether ether ketone. And if you say that real fast, polyether ether ketone, it feels a bit like a tongue twister. Now, just to avoid sounding like I know what I'm talking about, I'm going to warn you, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm not a chemist and I'm not an engineer. So, what kind of material is this? It is a high-grade engineering plastic. As they say on their website, it is mostly used in the semiconductor world because of heat resistance, chemical resistance, drop resistance, shatter resistance, all of those things. If you are into fountain pens, you're familiar with materials, for example, like polycarbonate, like this Gravitas polycarbonate pen, which is really, really tough and really durable. I've done the drop tests from 6 and 8 feet, and it caused nothing. No scratches, no damage, no cracks, no nothing. Really, really tough pen. But PEEK is an even tougher material. If you are into pens that are Ultem, this pen has higher heat resistance, chemical resistance, and some other things where there are areas in which this is the tougher plastic than Ultem as well. Now, it doesn't have that cool, marketable amber sort of a color naturally, but in terms of durability, which is what this pen is about as well, this pen is off the charts. It's really an impressive material when you start to dig in. They have information on their website, which I will put the link here and in the description below, that will help you understand the material a little bit better. And then, of course, you got Google, right? Bing, all those things. Bing, that's funny. Anyway, you've got Google, and you can find out all of that stuff on your own. But that material choice is why you can do things like that. I mean, it just is really impressive, and I think an interesting material choice and unique on the fountain pen market. And it offers people who need a durable fountain pen. There are people who need durable pens. Maybe they're just drop prone. Maybe they have a 5-year-old. Maybe they have a job in a situation where they still want to use their fountain pen, but hey, you need something tough. And this pen is that. So very impressive. I like it. Now, that's not the only impressive thing. We'll see a writing test here in a second, and that is, of course, quite good. But there are other facets here as well. For example, small thing, but always important to James, comes with a converter. Love that. And you'll notice that the grip section is made from a solid piece of the same material. And that's the thing. These pens are machined from a solid bar of the Peak material. This is not injection molded or anything like that. This is a turned pen. And it's very impressive that they have given you a turned pen at this level of detail for $50. When you look at the competition, man, this really knocks it out of the park. And it's not the only model that they have, and it's not the only material. They do also have ebonite pens on the website, but this is impressive pennery at that price. And I hope a lot of you will take a look at this pen, because I think we're going to see some interesting things down the road from Eureka. Now, that grip section is also nice and long, so if you're a high gripper, low gripper, mid gripper, you have a place to hold your pen. There is that bit of a step down, but that does not feel bad at all. I can't imagine being up that far on the pen, but there might be a reason that some would write that way, but it's not bad at all. So I have found this pen to be very comfortable. Now, it is a nice long pen. People with big hands gonna like this pen. And you are gonna write with it unposted, and the material gives kind of a nice warmth to it, and that very fine machining gives you a really solid purchase on the grip. So ergonomics, really quite good. All right, let's do our size comparison. This is the Lamy Safari, the ubiquitous pen there in black. You have the Eureka Symmetry. That name, I think, is going to become very well known soon. And the Gravitas in polycarbonate, and the TWSBI Go. Now, I chose these pens not just because they give us a good relative size of the Eureka Symmetry, but in some ways, these pens are used the way that the Symmetry is meant to be used, and that Peak being the toughest material exponentially compared to the two mass market pens. And here are the pens unposted. Now, I'm not going to bother posting them because I don't think this pen was really meant to be posted, and so I'm just going to treat it as a non-posting pen. And here you see that it really compares again really favorably with that Gravitas pen in size, a little bit longer than the Lamy and of course the TWSBI Go. You also see here some other differences, and I'm going to just kind of narrow this down between it and the Gravitas in that section. So it is a really nice long section, as I said, very well machined, excellent, as is that polycarbonate. And you might ask, okay, so can I eyedropper this pen? Because you obviously can. You are meant to be able to eyedropper the Gravitas. It has already the O-ring and everything else there. So what about this pen? You absolutely can eyedropper the pen. However, it does not come with an O-ring and is not really machined here at the threads for an O-ring. So you're going to have to use silicone grease, and that's not quite as secure as an O-ring pen, but it certainly can be done, and I've done that successfully with a lot of pens without any trouble. I was convinced it would be horrible and that I would have terrible stories, but I actually don't. I think I've had maybe one messed up eyedropper ever that burped, and I think that was about the quality of the pen, which is not an issue here, more than it was eyedroppering and relying on silicone grease. I think these threads are so well done that if you do that, you should be just fine. But of course, your mileage may vary. There are no guarantees here. And that would be the main advantage, I would say, of that Gravitas pen here. Now, the price difference is also significant. This has that very nice stainless steel, machined and chamfered and grooved grip section that I think is like one of the ideal shapes of a grip section. Really do like that a lot. And that costs. And so when you compare cost, well, that Eureka comes in at about half the cost of that Gravitas, and that's really quite impressive. And I think that's another reason you're going to start hearing this name a lot more. Again, this is a medium nib, and it is a number 6 Bock in that two-tone. I really like the look of the nib. Check it for wetness here. Very nice. Ink today is Waterman. Mysterious Blue. That was a lift on my part. I know that. I could feel it. I've been writing with a lot of Bock nibs lately, it seems like, and different tunings from different manufacturers. They do tune every pen, and I can tell that there is, a slight difference between this and some others, just kind of in feel, and it's good. It writes well. Flow is really, really good, as you can see here. I don't know. I just really like something about the way this feels. The material isn't kind of like ebonite is. It's a nice warm material in hand. It holds well. Again, it's non-slip. Just really a pleasant pen to write with. I've been impressed with it from the time I inked it up. There's just nothing that I would criticize in terms of the writing experience. Just good. And I get a surprising number of pens these days, more than just a few years ago, that I can say that about. And I don't think it's that I've become more tolerant. I think pen makers are kind of stepping it up, and especially a lot of these smaller business custom pen makers like Eureka, Gravitas, and several others. They're just doing a good job. Their attention to detail is impressive, and they love what they do. It's not a corporate board. They really love what they do, and they are listening to consumers, and I'm finding it impressive, and I find fewer duds this way, and not that they aren't out there, they are out there, but I've just been impressed lately, and that just makes the hobby that much more fun. Let's do our speed test. All right, now I see a couple of things, and I don't think that's the pen, but let me just do that again, just to rule myself out. We'll see if it's the pen or me. I'm going to pay better attention to my own form here. Okay. All right. So yeah, I think up here that was me, and this might have been me. I don't really think there's any. Let's see here. I don't think there's any real issues there at all. So yeah, I'm going to chalk that first run up to the user. That's really the way it works a lot of the times, isn't it? You reboot, you unplug, but really, often the problem is in front of the screen, right? Same thing with pens sometimes, and sometimes that problem is James. So I would say the flow is excellent. I have not had any hard starts. I've not had any dry outs. I've had no issues whatsoever, no leaks or anything like that. Very reliable, functional pen, and just so well done. I would highly recommend that you check out the Eureka Symmetry. They do have a good informative web page, which again, I have linked. No affiliation there. They just sent the pen to me so that I could examine it and share it with you. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know when I took it out of the package what to expect as far as the writing experience and those things, but I've just been impressed at every turn, and I love it when I can say that, because none of us like a dud, do we? So, me neither. This is not one. This is excellent, and I think for value for money, I don't know exactly what you would find in the same realm that comes close. It's really quite impressive, and I think you ought to check it out. All right, that's my review today. Thank you so much for all of your comments, your likes, your shares, your subscribes, all that stuff. And most of all, God bless you, and have a great week.